What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Fringe. We've been talking to a great extent about Ruby Dhalla, about the federal liberal, not the federal, but the liberal leadership campaign race that's going on and what it could mean for Canadians. Should Mark Carney get the opportunity, when he does get the opportunity, I should say, to invoke emergency measures to delay an election to 2026? I want to get into that today, and I want to talk about that a little bit more to a greater extent, because what's just been unearthed on mainstream media is the writing on the wall that this is coming. A lot of people say, Derek, don't talk about these things until they're given proof. You're just rage baiting. You're fear mongering. I would be doing you guys, you viewers, my audience, this community, an incredible disservice if we didn't point out the obvious and at least prepare ourselves for what's coming. For those who were talking about Ruby Dhalla, we mentioned it Saturday. We talked about it to a great extent on live stream, which, by the way, if you haven't already, join me Fridays and Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central. Join me for our live shows. Ruby Dhalla has filed an appeal to the Liberals' decision. At the time of this video filming yesterday evening, it was 5 hours in, so mid-Sunday afternoon, Ruby filed an appeal for the decision of what the Liberals had done. Now, the video does go to an extent to explain that on Friday, when she was disqualified from running in the leadership race, first they said it was political interference because of her ties to India. Then they said it was because of hiring somebody who wasn't a Canadian citizen. They basically went on a witch hunt to find any rule or any reason to kick her out, to disqualify her. She had a meeting with them, it says in this video, at 1:30 in the afternoon on Friday, and by 4:30 she was dragged on to CBC News, where they had insider information, because, you know, they're the long arm of the government's propaganda machine, to essentially let her know while she was on news live that she'd been let go before the party even gave her the courtesy of filing their decision with her. Of course, she tweets out here, appeal filed for the millions of Canadians who believe in democracy. There's the key word, because we don't have any. Free speech, again, don't have it. And fair elections, don't have it. On Friday, I fought for change, progressive policies, and for members who want to return to the Liberal Party of the center, putting the power back in the hands of Canadians. Of course, she's asked down here, do you think I should be given the chance to debate Carney in Montreal, the Liberal leadership debates? Yes, we'll say absolutely. Again, out of 25,000 votes, 87.7% of people are saying yes. You can even see down here her retweeting that Brian Lilly has even done an article saying that the Liberals claiming foreign interference on Ruby Dhalla is laughable. Now, say what you want about Ruby. The reason that this is laughable, when you look at the Liberals, it's kind of putting the pot in the kettle. What you're looking at here is a party that has MPs in a secret document tied to foreign interference through China, worried about an MP coming in who supposedly, allegedly, with no proof, has ties to India. Now, people are going to say, stop giving them credit, stop giving them slack. I'm not defending Liberals here. What I'm pointing out is the hypocrisy, that this is an installation. Why are they installing Mark Carney? Well, it's to ruin our country. Last week, I did a video talking about Karina Gould and how Crystia, Freeland, and Karina Gould essentially have not been on the campaign trail. They haven't been holding rallies. They haven't been doing very much, at least in the public eye, to push for some desire to take the next job as the prime minister. You would think that when they put in their $350,000 entry fees, they would really want to push to make sure that they're trying to get elected, that they want people to vote for them. I can honestly say, as somebody who follows politics for YouTube, that's constantly on social media, I have not seen so much as a peep from either of them since their disastrous election announcements, or declaration of running, rallies, however you want to put it. But here they are making their rounds on social, or on mainstream media again, and we have seen Crystia on there We have seen Karina on there, but I want to go back to something that I mentioned last week. Now, Karina is essentially laying out the foundation. If the Liberals wanted to keep this tight-lipped, she should be reprimanded and fired immediately, because if anything, she's just telling us what the truth is for once. And Mark Carney essentially should be livid. Now, again, not defending them, but when people criticize Pierre Poilievre for having such a tight leash on the Conservatives to make sure that what they say is vetted before going out, this is the problem. Loose lips sink ships, right? Karina Gould says that if selected prime minister, not elected, I love how they keep using that word, the threat from Trump will be too large to call an election. She said this last week, and we showed a video where Mark Carney refused to answer if he'd call an election once he's technically installed as Canada's next prime minister, despite not having a mandate. Canadians will need massive COOF-style support programs to help them through an economic crisis. This socialist is delusional. She'll never be prime minister. No, she won't, because she doesn't care. This is a setup for Mark Carney. People have asked my opinion. I know there's other people running besides Karina Gould and Crystia Freeland. The problem at this point, folks, when we've talked about Liberal memberships, voting in the leadership race, it really doesn't matter at this point, because they've shown, no matter who you back, the votes are going to Mark Carney. Whoever you get behind, because it happened with Chandra Era, then it happened with Ruby Dhalla. If anybody gets behind anybody other than Mark Carney, they're going to kick them out, or they're going to resign from the race so that they can install Mark Carney. Take a listen to what she has to say here.
If you win and ultimately do become the next leader of the party, the next prime minister, will you go straight to an election?
Oh, well, I am going to see where the country is at that moment in time, because if we are in the midst of a trade war with the United States, we need to make sure that the entire energy of the government is focused on defending Canada and defending Canadians.
So before she continues, and I know people are sick of her voice just as much as any Liberal, listen to how enthusiastic she is answering this question. How cut and paste is her answer. And very low energy, low key. This isn't the answer of somebody who's running to be prime minister. This is the energy of somebody who's essentially taking talking points to fill a position so that there's people to run against, so that it maintains the illusion that we're having, as Justin Trudeau says, a robust selection process. These guys have laid down already for Mark Carney.
I'm going to want to see where we are on March 10th. There will be an election at some point this year, right? We have a fixed election date in October. So whether that is, an election that is called earlier or until then, the decision that I will make as Prime Minister is going to be about defending Canada. If we need to have a massive support program for Canadians because we have hundreds of thousands of people who have lost their job, or we need to ensure businesses can keep their doors open so that when we do win a potential trade war, Canadians have good jobs to go back to, that's the decision that I'm going to make at the time.
So while she sits there with her fart-huffing smile, what shocks me is that people who support the Liberals are still stupid enough to believe that they care, that they give a damn about what Canadians supposedly need. When she says we got to make sure there's programs in place to support from a trade war, to do all these, there's a better way to do that, and it doesn't cost billions of dollars in relief that you're printing for essentially installing some form of UBI into our society. Hold an election, because people will vote in an actual leader who's actually going to have the government go to work for a change instead of sitting back and taking another extended holiday from Parliament, and somebody who could also negotiate with Donald Trump to essentially, hopefully, end this trade war, or essentially put Canadians in a better position where we don't have to print billions of dollars. But the fact of the matter is what she says there is we have a potentially scheduled election later this year or earlier, depending on how they feel March 10th. What's funny about that, and I'm going to show this video clip again. We showed this last week because once again, Karina's flapping her mouth. She says tariffs might be a reason not to go to the polls. People are saying, Derek, you haven't confirmed anything. They haven't said they're going to use emergency measures. If you follow the channel, we even showed Brian Lilly in an extensive video quite some time ago, pointing out how Mark Carney essentially can and most likely will use the excuse of Trump's tariff war to declare an emergency. We've heard Carney talking about using special emergency powers many times. He says it's to better the lives of Canadians and to ensure that Canadians are protected, to ensure that Canadians can afford their lives again, however he wants to put it. The emergency measures he's talking about are delaying an election until 2026. While the books say that we're supposed to have a scheduled election for October 2025, should he declare an emergency and should Jagmeet Singh back him up, as we already know he's going to? I know some people have come after me in the comments to say, hey, he's a wild card. He could still change his mind. Anybody who's giving up hope at this point to think that Jagmeet Singh will do what's right for Canadians, you might need to get your head checked, because his track record speaks for itself. I'm not holding my breath until I actually see the day where pigs fly, so to speak. Jagmeet will support Mark Carney. He'll delay the election until 2026. As Karina just laid out the groundwork in the last clip, and again, quotes here, this is where I'm saying, like, if I were Mark Carney, I'd be kicking her to the curb and saying, shut up. You're telling everybody what our plan is. Or as Mr. Burns says, Smithers, stop spoiling our plans. Listen to this.
Will you call an election if you win? Will you call an election if you win the leadership? Mark, will you call an election if you win?
Let me know. You give me your advice. Mark Carney is not going to call an election. He knows he's out. He knows that he'll lose if he calls an election. They have to cheat in order for him to be installed. They can't even hold a leadership race at this point, ladies and gentlemen. This is where I say we're winning. We've pushed the Liberals so far, they have to cheat in order to install their next leader. And they're not going to call an election because they know that their time is up. They know that Canadians, for the most part, are done. What I worry about isn't the fact of Pierre Poilievre being able to defeat Mark Carney at this point. It's how long are Canadians going to have to sit and put up with the antics of Mark Carney and Trudeau 3.0 style politics. Again, I'm not even going to say 2.0. If you don't know how dangerous Mark Carney is for Canada, I suggest reading his book. I suggest looking at his interviews. This man is going to absolutely cripple our country, and all he's going to need in order to do that is about 6 months of time to a year. And this country is going to be begging for mercy. They'll be begging for something. I'm not sure if that's going to push Canadians over the brink. Your guess is as good as mine. Let me know what you think down below. Does this all but confirm that we are less likely to see an election until 2026? I sure think the writing is on the wall. I think all signs point to yes. Again, people call it how you want to and say, this isn't guaranteed. It's not official. If it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, ladies and gentlemen. Again, not trying to fearmonger, more trying to prepare Canadians for what could potentially be coming ahead and what's most likely coming ahead by the looks of it. Let me know your thoughts down below if it's your first time here. I hope this video has earned your subscription. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. Censorship's going to be at an all-time high as we get closer to Mark Carney being installed. He doesn't want people hearing what we have to say. Hit that subscribe button so you can get your information from this channel as it drops multiple times a day, all week long. And then again, join our live streams every Wednesday and Friday night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central. Fridays on Friday Night Fringe, I will be joined by the very beautiful Mrs. Fringe every week as we go over everything that's happened this week in politics, everything coming up in the week ahead, as well as back and forth in every stream with the greatest YouTube community on the platform. I look forward to hearing what you guys have to say outside of making these videos, and I look forward to hearing what you have to say this Wednesday night, again, 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central here on the channel. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you on the next one.